know what to do. Chesley!
I consider myself a bit of a dog lover. In fact, I've recently rescued a black lab that was around 130 pounds when I got him. He's down to 110 now. Progress. When I heard about Farewell North, a game where you get to play as an adorable border collie, I was pretty excited about it. After all, we saw how good Stray was with a kitty lead character, though not every cat game has been great. Maybe ask Bubsy about that. But either way, I'm always down for a fun little narrative adventure, especially if it has a dog involved. But is Farewell North man's best friend? Or is it the nippy, angry chihuahua at your parents' house that you dread seeing every holiday? Well, let's find out in our full review. Real quick, stop getting fed kibbles and bits from the gaming echo chamber and upgrade to the premium indie formula. Like and subscribe to the video and fight the Metacritic echo chamber at patreon.com/idreamofindiegames, where you'll gain Discord access, early shows, and so much more. We also have live streams here Tuesdays and Thursdays, and also on Twitch. Your new indie gaming community is waiting for you. Farewell North will send you on a spiritual journey with Kaylee and Chesley, the latter being a beautiful border collie. It is a game that tackles some pretty serious subject matter, mainly dealing with loss. Chesley is a loyal sheepdog whose original owner has sadly passed away, leaving Kaylee to take over ownership. Your journey takes place across various islands which have been inspired by the Scottish Highlands. It is a beautifully told tale that will almost certainly have players weeping by the time the credits roll on this 5-hour journey. So have those Kleenex handy, you're gonna need them. While Farewell North is mostly driven by its powerful narrative, the game, which typically follows a straightforward linear path, will also offer the occasional puzzle. I use that term loosely, and it also has light open exploration via canoe travel. Your goal is to traverse between various islands and restore color to them while unraveling mysteries and coming to peace with your own past. Each island is unique from the last in how they look, but not so much in how they're explored. Typically speaking, you'll sail out to specific locations via your canoe. Areas that advance the main story are marked with a yellow beacon of light, while less important islands are going to be marked blue. Islands will generally play out something like this. Land your canoe, follow Kaylee until she is hindered by something stopping her progress, and figure out how to advance her forward to ultimately restore color to that specific island. There are just a handful of basic puzzle types in Farewell North. Most of the time you'll simply need to find an item of importance, such as a flower, pump some color into it, retrieve it with your mouth, and carry it over to wherever your progress has been halted. Other puzzles include having to herd sheep to specific areas, or needing to look at your environment from a specific angle to unlock a way forward. You might restore a broken bridge as one example this way. The bad news for those of you that like challenging puzzle design is that you won't really get that here. The good news for those of you that are here for the narrative, which I assume is the majority, is that these puzzles feel more like little distractions than anything else, and you'll never really find yourself stuck in this game. The vast majority of the experience is going to be colorless, but key items are typically illuminated well enough for you to see them. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out which item goes where, and really just comes down to having to meander around for a while until you inevitably stumble across what you need.
I know you miss her too, don't you, Jess?
Chesley, or Ches, only has a few abilities, including a bark to alert Kaylee and a magical power to infuse things with color. The dog can also jump, and unfortunately, Farewell North features a decent amount of poorly implemented platforming. Sure, there is an icon to tell you where you can jump, but the mechanic of this feels floaty and pretty unsatisfying, and it's used way more than I thought it would be. The only other major mechanic to be concerned with is dashing, and you do have a stamina meter. It feels kind of pointless because it recharges pretty quickly, but you can up your stamina through hidden items. The puzzles themselves are mostly fine, the problem being that Farewell North ran out of gameplay ideas far too soon for me, which was surprising in such a short campaign. You'll herd the animals countless times, retrieve items and bring them from point A to point B, or play fetch here or there, but really not all that much else. None of these activities are particularly thrilling, and the canoeing feels pretty miserable mechanically, despite offering two different control schemes. All of this is to say, if you aren't here for Chesley's journey, you simply won't be getting a compelling gameplay experience. In fact, you won't find any sort of challenge in general, as a death, if you want to call it that, typically comes from a poorly timed jump, and it will simply put you right back to where you were with no penalty. But this isn't to say Farewell North doesn't have a heart, because it really does. I played through the game in one sitting, completely engrossed by the narrative, wondering where the journey would lead me in the end. Yes, I winced through some pretty poor gameplay sections, but that pain was often worth the pleasure. It is a game that will stick with you not for any of its gameplay elements, but for how it will leave you feeling on the inside. Farewell North is also beautiful on the outside, when it isn't completely colorless, that is. Expect a rush of adrenaline as the islands breathe new life. Gorgeous mountainous regions flow with renewed energy. The grass, the snow, everything comes to life, and the effect is striking as you progress in this game. Unfortunately, the vast majority of your time will be spent in that soulless, bleak color palette, void of any real color at all. While this was clearly a decision involving the narrative and theme of the game, I still felt like certain sections lingered on too long at times in those drab grays, whites, and blacks. Animations are also one of the game's bigger issues. The jumping animation of Chesley in particular looks downright awful. Facial expressions also fail to impress despite decent character models. The game was obviously made on a budget, and sadly it does show at times. Thankfully, upon completion of the game you are free to explore the world in full color, which is a much more vibrant experience, and you can go after any missing collectibles too, which is really cool. On the topic of those collectibles, there are a good amount scattered across the islands. Musical notes will help you to discover a long-lost song should you find them all, and other trinkets are hidden amongst islands for completionists to seek out. Getting everything could potentially add an additional hour or two of gameplay. And as far as performance is concerned, Farewell North ran really well on my 4070, able to achieve 120 FPS at the very high setting with 4K resolution. Unfortunately, it was not without a few bugs and oddities though. I would often clip through environments, and even spawned myself into multiple deaths in a row. Another sequence in the game broke completely, but thankfully I only needed to reload my checkpoint to get through it. It's worth noting that patches were still being deployed as I concluded this review, so hopefully you'll have a bit of a smoother experience than I did. But the good news is, nothing I came across was game-breaking. Steam Deck performance was also extremely impressive, as I achieved 60 FPS without tweaking a single thing, and the game looked great on handheld too. I didn't test every area on Steam Deck, but the ones I did ran like butter. This makes the Steam Deck version an easy choice for handheld players, as I find it unlikely the Switch will be able to muster up 60 FPS, but hey, maybe I'll be wrong, and I'm sure you'll let me know in the comments if it does.
Okay, it's just muscle memory, right? Come by the flock, clockwise round, mind the lamb. Away you go. Back round the sheep, quick as a ram.
The last thing that needs to be mentioned is the soundtrack. I saved one of the best aspects of the game for last. This orchestrated soundtrack is jaw-dropping, easily one of the best that I've heard in 2024. Strings soar during emotional scenes, with loud, bombastic musical genius backing them. The music is just so powerful, it's uplifting, and fits the story and theme of the game perfectly. As a fan of classical music and orchestration, I was just head over heels in love. Unfortunately, the sound effects aren't quite as good as this soundtrack is. In fact, some of them even seem to be missing, like when I jumped in the water and it didn't make a sound at all. There are some voice performances here. They're not exceptional or anything like that, but they serve the purpose, and I've heard much worse. Farewell North is a flawed yet beautiful game worth experiencing. While its technical issues remind you far too often that it is indeed a video game, its story will break your heart and resonated with me greatly, especially as someone who owns and loves a dog. If you want a pure puzzle adventure game that favors gameplay over narrative, Farewell North won't be for you. But if you seek a memorable 5-hour story that will hit you in the feels, this title will absolutely do so. So, as many of you know, we rank our games on a Genie Lamp tier system, with Bronze being a good game, Silver being a great game, and the Golden Genie Lamp of approval being essential for your indie gaming library. Particularly bad games receive the dreaded Indie Krampus, but we try not to talk about him too much. This was a tricky one, but when it comes to Farewell North, I'm gonna award it the Bronze Genie Lamp of approval. If I were scoring this game based on its narrative alone, it would probably be more essential, but the ho-hum repetitive puzzles and the downright awful platforming do hold this one back and take you out of the experience far too often. But again, if you're in this for a compelling emotional story, you're not gonna be disappointed there.
So, I've been thinking. There really is a lot to love about this place, even if it's not my home anymore.